We have to win. This is the most important election in the history of our country.
This election could genuinely usher in a second American Civil War, Civil War 2.0. I can't think of another time in history when a sitting American president has already called into question the validity of an election result that hasn't even happened yet.
He warned delegates that the Democrats were trying to steal the election.
We have to be very, very careful. And this time they're trying to do it with the whole post office scam. They'll blame it on the post office. You could see them setting it up.
While simultaneously getting onto the street and inflaming right-wing militias, actively encouraging them to be good patriots and to come out on the street to defend good old America.
Earlier on Twitter, the president suggested the protesters were professionally managed and denied he was stoking more confrontation when he inquired, "Tonight, I understand, is MAGA night at the White House?"
Let's take Trump's recent visit to Kenosha. Predictably, the president was met by protesters and counter-protesters, as some Black Lives Matter protesters who had called for the president not to come in the first place turned up on the street to rally against him.
President Trump has been visiting the troubled city of Kenosha in Wisconsin after a week of violent protests following the police shooting of Jacob Blake, an African American.
The scenes were ugly, avoidable, and were designed to play to his base.
And met with law enforcement agencies. He called the demonstrations anti-police and anti-American.
On the night of August 25th, protesters and groups of armed men who said they were there to protect businesses were gathered in Kenosha. Among the armed men was 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse.
We don't have non-lethal.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who was 17 and was armed with an AR-15, killed 2 protesters and injured 1 in Kenosha earlier that week.
And the shirtless man falls to the ground. At 11:49, multiple videos show Rittenhouse running down the street as a pursuer tries to hit him. Rittenhouse is being chased by several people when he appears to stumble and falls to the ground. While on the ground, police say he fires at least 4 shots.
Joseph Jojo Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber, 2 demonstrators, were shot to death at close range.
Rittenhouse then tried to give himself up to the police, but as you can see in this video, he simply walks through the police line. Kyle is then seen going up to the police with his illegally owned gun, where he's offered a bottle of water.
According to police, Rittenhouse said he was in Kenosha to resolve whatever conflict was in place.
Trump's visit turned into a press rampage as he blamed domestic terrorism for the Midwest city's woes, and then went on to excuse the actions of Kyle Rittenhouse and described him as some sort of patriotic hero.
Powerful gun rights groups are getting behind Kyle. #FightBack. Founded, it says, to counter the lies of the radical left, has raised a reported $700,000. A Christian crowdsourcing site, several $100,000 more.
Even more loaded than his trip to Kenosha was his trip to Tulsa, the site of Black Wall Street that had been bombed from the air and fire-burned by the KKK down to a crisp. He went there to enliven white supremacists, and the whole time was making hand gestures that are well known to be a KKK symbol for white supremacy.
America is not a racist country.
Explain to me why I couldn't climb that.
Now, one of the things you may not realise about the 2016 presidential election is just how many people changed their vote from Obama in the election before to Trump himself. Between 6.7 and 9.3 million people decided to vote for Trump who'd voted for Obama. Michael Moore believes that the reason that this is the case is because Obama promised change that never happened, and along came Trump.
We will make America great again.
Again offering a new vision, an outsider trying to take on the forces in Washington, whilst Hillary Clinton represented the status quo. And it was extremely effective.
Emerging victorious in a presidential result that stunned the nation
and the world.
For these exact reasons, Bernie Sanders represented the dream ticket. He polled better than Trump in the swing states, and his brand of democratic socialism, powered by small donations, looked like it was going to win through until the virus happened. And quite literally, the donations dried up. Meanwhile, the status quo candidate Joe Biden kept taking donations from large corporations, and so his campaign rolled on.
This is as close as our cameras could get to the candidate's first fundraiser at the home of a wealthy Comcast executive.
The Democratic campaign seems to be built on the idea that Joe Biden is going to ride in and rescue us from 2020, delivering us back to the way the world used to be.
America's coming back like we used to be, ethical, straight, telling the truth.
The thing is, for a lot of us, it seems very clear that the game has changed. Biden's "when they go low, we go high" message,
when they go low, we go high,
might sound morally positive, but it isn't particularly effective. Surely we need to fight fire with fire, which is exactly what Bernie the Burn was doing, and to an extent, what AOC and the squad have been doing the whole time, calling out his racism, his misogyny with fire and brimstone of their own, which has galvanized their own base.
I don't want to hear the question, is this president racist anymore? He is.
This president will do anything to stay in office.
The president this afternoon said out loud that his supporters should try to vote twice.
He's already put his supporters in charge of the post office, election rigging, gerrymandering, and the up to 17 million people who've been purged from the voter rolls.
The new provisions target African Americans with almost surgical precision.
With campaign ads that genuinely are terrifying.
Seattle's pledged to defund its police department by 50%, even including a proposal to remove 911 dispatchers from police control.
Joe Biden said he's absolutely on board with defunding the police. Listen closely.
Yes, absolutely.
Hello, you've reached 911. I'm sorry that there is no one here to answer your emergency call, but leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Crime will rise significantly.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Now, we've had scattered incidents, shootings in Portland and Kenosha, but at the time of recording, we have not had a full-on exchange of automatic weapons between rival groups. But I'm afraid it's just a matter of time.
USA! USA! This is a springboard for something much larger. This is simply put as American patriots saying, here's the line. Burn this down.
And the thing is, I'm scared that these protests are playing into Donald Trump's hands.
These are not acts of peaceful protest. These are acts of domestic terror.
As many of you know, I was very involved with the Black Lives Matter protests in the United Kingdom. But when I went, my mother had not the reaction necessarily I was expecting.
What a world we're living in.
She's got type 1 diabetes, is high risk, and even though she's a liberal who believed in the cause, her first messages to me was to be safe and wear a mask, because she worried that the protests themselves would push the virus further and were an affront to all of the healthcare workers who had died on the front line battling COVID. I think there are a lot of people that think exactly like this, but just don't want to admit it. Because if a liberal woman from North London who believes in all of those liberal causes is having that idea, then what the hell is happening to the centre-right of America?
I am mobilizing all available federal resources, civilian and military, to stop the rioting and looting, to end the destruction and arson, and to protect the rights of law-abiding Americans, including your Second Amendment rights.
Historically speaking, when an election is being fought, a law and order ticket can always be extremely effective with the electorate. Election after election has shown that, from Richard Nixon to Ronald Reagan. And that merry fiction that Joe Biden's America is chaos and protest where no police will be able to come and help you, that has become a very real and central tenet of his campaign. Let's face it, the economy is in the dumps. The coronavirus has ripped the out of the country. The only thing he had left was law and order, and now he's going for it hook, line, and sinker.
This is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop.
and they should not.
These people are tearing up our livelihood.
Third straight night, Portland police declared a riot.
The vast majority of the protest has been peaceful.
Over the weekend, 59 officers injured and 47 people arrested.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announcing a proposal to cut $1 billion from the New York City Police Department.
We need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
This has been declared a riot.
You won't be safe in Joe Biden's America.
The battle lines are clear, the guns are drawn, and this time, unlike the last civil war, everybody's got automatic weapons. We're going to see running street battles between rival militias, both heavily armed and often very well trained. A lot of these people are ex-military, be they Black Lives Matter protesters or the Arizona border defenders. And Donald Trump will do exactly what he did with Antifa and try to reclassify Black Lives Matter as a domestic terrorist organization. I hope with every fiber of my being that everything that I'm saying is wrong, that Donald Trump peacefully leaves office in 2020 and we have a new president. But honestly, I think that's about as likely as Lionel Messi joining Millwall.
I really came today to thank law enforcement and to just really that what you've done has been incredible. It's been really inspiring because you see it happening all over and it just never seems to end. And it never seems to end because it's almost as though they don't want it to end.